If you spend a little bit of time looking at this channel, then it'd be pretty clear to you that I consume a pretty wide variety of media. I'm talking movies, shows, cartoons, comics, novels, and one of my favorite arcs to see in any of those medias are redemption arcs. There's just something about redemption arcs that hit deeper than any other story we tell. I mean, we've seen them like everywhere. We watch as these characters fall from grace or start out in seemingly unredeemable states, before that one moment changes how they view the world and themselves as people. We've seen princes become heroes, fathers confront their sins, and legends find the light in the very darkness that made them. I don't know, man. There's just something about redemption arcs in media that does something to me.
Gets the people going.
Because redemption arcs aren't just stories, they're reflections of who we can still be even when we fall short. But what if I told you that the greatest redemption arc ever told isn't what you'd expect or where you'd expect to find it? If you've been enjoying this and my other content, maybe consider liking and subscribing. It's truly the best way to help this channel grow and reach more people. Anyways, back to your regular scheduled programming.
I know I've made some bad choices, but today, I'm gonna set things right.
Okay, before I say anything, I really gotta specify just how much I love Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like, if you ask anyone who knows me what my favorite show of all time is, 9 times out of 10 they'd probably say Avatar. And during my original planning period for this script, I totally meant for this video to be about Zuko. Because like everybody knows, he's kind of the gold standard when it comes to redemption arcs. But when I actually got to writing this video out, besides the fact that everybody and their mom has probably done a video about Zuko's redemption arc by now, another redemption arc started coming to my mind. You see, the thing about redemption arcs is, they're not just limited to fictional stories and characters. Redemption's universal. It can extend even to real life stories. Now stay with me, cause this might sound like a pretty random pivot. But in my opinion, sports in general are kind of like the perfect medium for telling and creating engaging narratives for people to follow. I mean, why do you think there's so many sports shows and movies? So in a lot of ways for me, the NBA is kind of like the greatest long-running drama series on television. Storylines and narratives can span for years. Heroes and villains are organically formed, dynasties rise and fall, decisions made by players and organizations can impact franchises for years, maybe decades to come. And for better and honestly sometimes worse, we the audience get to watch it all play out in real time. So I guess now with that added context, we can finally get to the greatest redemption arc ever told. One that chronicles a story of a chosen hero who succumbed to the dark side before ultimately redeeming himself in the eyes of all. Of course, I'm talking about
December 30th, a majestic animal was born. December 30th, in Akron, Ohio, the GOAT, LeBron Ramon James was born. The #1 in points, top 10 in every category, is going to lead the league as the best athlete that has ever played any sport, anywhere, anytime on the planet Earth. LeBron Ramon James.
I'm not joking. Like all great stories, this one starts with a prophecy. A kid burdened by destiny before he was even old enough to truly understand what it meant. For the world of basketball, that kid was LeBron James. At just the age of 17, during his junior year of high school, LeBron was crowned the chosen one, and the heir apparent to Michael Jordan as the face of basketball. You know what I was doing my junior year? Well shit, neither do I, but it definitely wasn't as interesting as anything LeBron had going on. A year later, he was drafted #1 overall, straight out of high school by his hometown team, the Cleveland Cavaliers, in an absolutely loaded draft class, plus Darko for some reason. He wasn't just drafted to the league like other rookies. He was drafted to quite literally save a city. The Cavs were quite literally one of the worst teams in the sport, with them missing the playoffs for 5 straight seasons, with the entire city as a whole in the midst of a nearly 40-year championship drought before the drafting of LeBron. And he at like 18 was supposed to somehow fix all of this. He couldn't just be an all-star talent or even a superstar. No, LeBron James had to be a transcendent talent, capable of not just immediately turning around a sinking ship, but changing the sport as we know it. And he did just that. Bron immediately came out the gate swinging. He took home Rookie of the Year in that stacked draft class, pretty drastically improving the Cavs' record. By his second year, he was already an all-star and 6th in MVP voting. By his third year, he finally brought the Cavs to the playoffs for the first time in 8 seasons, averaging 30 points along the way. And by his fourth year, he practically single-handedly dragged that Cavs team that had no business anywhere near it to the NBA Finals. They got their asses handed to them by the Spurs, obviously, because, again, they weren't supposed to be there. But all that showed was, despite how great LeBron was, he couldn't do it alone. Despite back-to-back MVP finishes in 2009 and 2010, LeBron and the Cavs continually ran into playoff heartbreak. It was pretty clear to anyone with, eyes that the Cavs did a pretty shitty job building a championship-level team around him. I mean, you could argue that their biggest move that they made during that time was bringing in an old, fat 37-year-old Shaq. Something looked really off with LeBron during his Game 6 performance against the Celtics in 2010. He looked frustrated, checked out the whole game, which made a lot of people start to wonder about his future in Cleveland. Because sometimes, when a chosen one grows tired of waiting for fate to deliver, they attempt to take destiny into their own hands. On July 8, 2010, LeBron James made his decision on his basketball future, live on national television.
In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
In the span of seconds, LeBron James, the golden child of the NBA, the chosen one, the face of the league, became its biggest villain. The big move to Miami to form a super team with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh was met at the time with unprecedented backlash. Cleveland fans burned their jerseys. The Cavs owner Dan Gilbert wrote a scathing letter to LeBron in Comic Sans no less. Overnight, LeBron James went from savior to sellout. What probably made it worse though, was how it was all handled, because this wasn't just another athlete switching teams. It was a hometown hero breaking a promise to his city on national television. And it didn't help either that LeBron kinda fanned the flames, announcing at the Super Team's extravagant intro event that they would win
not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7.
I mean, it's going to be easy.
That line would probably come back to haunt him for some years, because in that moment, he stopped being the humble prodigy from Akron, Ohio, and he had finally fallen to the dark side. The Heat, as expected, dominated their way through the East that year. They were the villains of the league, and they couldn't care less, especially LeBron, at least from the outside. But behind that composed image, there was something different. Pressure. The kind that doesn't just make you stronger, but eats at you. The Heat made it all the way to the finals, where they matched up with my Dallas Mavericks. Honestly, if you weren't quite literally living in Dallas, Texas at the time, then you in no way believe the Mavericks had even a chance to win this series. Miami had 3 of the top players in the league, all in their primes. While the Mavs were perceived as an older, slower team, led by one aging star in Dirk Nowitzki. The story was seemingly already set in stone. LeBron James finally wins his first ring, the Big Three become a dynasty, and Dirk chokes and goes home ringless again. The stage was set for his vindication, the moment where LeBron James silenced everyone. But instead, the exact opposite happened. Dirk played like a man possessed that series and honestly that entire run, hitting clutch shot after clutch shot, even with the flu, even while injured. That whole Mavs team stepped up on both sides of the ball, making life miserable for the Heat. Dallas didn't just beat Miami, they exposed them on the biggest stage. Instead of LeBron finally ascending, he disappeared. He looked lost, passive, human, shut down in the biggest moments, even by players like JJ Barea and bros like my height. In hindsight, that series was probably the greatest upset in NBA history, and that Mavs playoff run was probably the greatest finals run as well. And as a Dallas native, it'll probably be the last time for a while that the Mavericks win it all, seeing as a freaking shoe salesman named Nico Harrison traded away our at the time 25-year-old top 3 player in the world after finally making it back to the finals for 29 games of a man whose bones were made out of glass, sending us into a rebuild and simultaneously killing my love for basketball. But this isn't a video about my disillusionment from my favorite sports team. It's a video about LeBron. For the first time ever, the world saw a version of LeBron that didn't have all the answers. In that moment, he wasn't the king or the chosen one. He wasn't even a villain. He was just a man face to face with his own reflection. LeBron since this series has constantly referred to it as the worst moment of his entire career. But at that low point, something started to shift.
Something extraordinary seems to be happening. The biggest star in basketball, LeBron James, King James, seems to be choking.
After the 2011 finals, the world had made up its mind on LeBron James. But that summer, something changed. That same criticism that once weighed him down fueled him. He reinvented himself, both physically and mentally. This new LeBron wasn't just better, he was terrifying. He stopped trying to be the chosen one and became something else entirely, inevitable. For the next 3 years, he ruled the league like a man possessed. Back-to-back MVPs, back-to-back championships. There really wasn't anything his critics could say at the time. He was far and away in a class of his own. Yeah, LeBron and the Heat were still seen as the villains of the league, and he wasn't loved in the slightest. But those who hated him, at least respected him. Even after the Heat was lost in 2014, and it felt like someone had finally slayed the dragon living in Miami, you still couldn't say anything about LeBron's play, because he was quite literally the only Heat player that showed up every game. LeBron was still the king at the peak of his power, sitting on top of that mountain, the final boss that seemingly every contender would have to face eventually. But the thing about being on top is that it never lasts forever. Wade was rapidly aging due to his knees falling off the bone, and Bosh just didn't have the scoring punch needed to be a second option on a championship team anymore. LeBron had become everything he was told to be, a champion, a legend, by far the best player in the world. But even with all that glory and power gained from all of that, it still all kind of felt hollow, like his story still didn't feel finished. Because no matter how high he climbed, the one thing that would pull him back down was that one unfulfilled promise. LeBron would soon realize that the only way to get where he was searching was to go back to where it all began. On July 11, 2014, in a letter seen in that month's Sports Illustrated, LeBron James revealed to the world that he was coming home. The 4 years since LeBron had left them, the Cleveland Cavaliers had become the premier laughingstock of the entire league, winning a combined dreadful 31% of their games during that time, and being awarded with the #1 pick in the draft 3 times in 4 years just because of how shitty they were. Seemingly the lone bright spot in that time span was one of their 3 first overall picks, Kyrie Irving, a young shifty guard who developed into an all-star. Now with LeBron James finally back, along with their 2 other #1 picks, like Anthony Bennett, he was one of the worst #1 picks in NBA history. It took until his 5th game in the league for him to score his first field goal. But he still had a great big 3 with Bron, Kyrie, and Andrew Wiggins. He was the most hyped draft prospect since, LeBron.
Do you think Cleveland wants you?
Yeah.
What I meant to say was a big 3 with LeBron, Kyrie, and newly acquired Kevin Love. In the span of maybe a month, the Cavs had given LeBron a better team than he'd ever had in his previous stint in town. But along with that came bigger expectations than he's ever faced in Cleveland. After a rocky start to the season, the Cavs entered the playoffs as the 2 seed. The road to bringing a chip to the city was harder than anybody could have initially foreseen. During the first round, Kevin Love went out for the rest of the season after Kelly Olynyk dislocated his shoulder. And after game 1 of the finals, Kyrie was done for the season too. Suddenly, LeBron was once again dragging a subpar roster against another historically great team, this time in the 67-win Warriors, led by the MVP of the league, Stephen Curry. The Cavs eventually lost this series in 6, but LeBron wasn't going down without a fight. In that final series, he put together maybe the greatest carry job ever recorded, playing 46 out of 48 possible minutes a night, and leading both teams in literally every statistical category, with his main help in that series being Tristan freaking Kardashian and Matthew Dellavedova, who literally had to be checked into the hospital after having to chase around Steph Curry for a whole game. Andre Iguodala quite literally won Finals MVP for preventing LeBron from averaging even more. Honestly, you could argue if LeBron just had one of Kyrie or Love, they probably win that series. I feel like in a lot of ways, this series for people was kind of the point where LeBron started to really shed that villain persona in the eyes of the world. It was over a decade ago, but I vividly remember going into that playoff series, praying on his downfall like I had done for the last 4 finals. But as it actually played out, I really couldn't help but get behind LeBron as I watched him carry that team single-handedly. If 2015 made people believe in him again, then 2016 made people believe in miracles. The playoffs started exactly how you'd expect them to for Bron and the rest of the Cavs. Easy 4-game sweeps in Detroit and Atlanta, and a quick pit stop to Canada to form the beginnings of what would soon be known as LeBronto, for setting up a rematch with the Golden State Warriors. This wasn't the same young Warriors team that caught everyone off guard the year before. The Warriors this year were an absolute juggernaut, finishing the regular season with a 73-9 record, the most wins in NBA history, with 3 All-NBA players in Klay Thompson, the 2nd greatest shooter of all time, and a certified baddie fumbler. Draymond Green, a professional MMA fighter, future defensive player of the year and that year's runner-up, And Stephen Curry, the greatest shooter of all time, and the first ever unanimous MVP in league history. The Cavs were seen as a great team going into that series, but the Warriors were seen as the greatest team of all time. Even with a healthy Cavs team going into that series, and LeBron playing some of the best basketball of his career, the Cavs still fell down 3-1. The story looked over. The Warriors just needed one game to win it all and cement their place in history. But this is where a great redemption arc hits its apex. The moment where failure seems inevitable. No team in NBA history has ever come back down 3-1, but no other team had LeBron James. Game 5, LeBron and Kyrie both dropped 41 points apiece. In Game 6, LeBron dropped a crazy stat line of 41 points, 8 rebounds, 11 assists, 4 steals, and 3 blocks to tie the series at 3-3. The first player to have back-to-back 40-point games since Shaquille O'Neal in 2000. Game 7, it's all tied up 89-89. With a minute and 50 seconds left on the clock. Neither team has scored a point in nearly 4 minutes. Undoubtedly, whoever scores next probably take momentum for the rest of the game. Andre Iguodala races down the court on a fast break for an uncontested layup to break the drought and take the lead, when out of nowhere,
Iguodala up for the layup! Oh, blocked by James!
One of the most iconic plays in sports history. With 53 seconds left in the game, Kyrie Irving hits a step-back 3 over Steph Curry for the first points in 4 minutes. Kevin Love got a crucial stop on the other end. Bron hits a free throw with 10 seconds left in the game for the last points of the entire game to make the final score 93-89. After 13 long years, LeBron James fulfilled his promise to the city of Cleveland. In doing so, he ended a 52-year sports championship drought. A broken relationship with a city healed. A villain completing a transformation back into a hero. And a kid from Akron fulfilling a promise he made to himself, to his city, and to anyone who ever second-guessed him. It also set up a subsequent third battle between these two legendary teams that was ultimately ruined by Kevin Durant. Look man, I could sit here all day and continue to talk about LeBron and his 2018 finals run, or his move to LA and 4th ring, or even him becoming the all-time leading scorer in NBA history. Or the fact that he's still playing high-level ball on a playoff team at the age of 41 in his 23rd season, literally next to his own son, as well as totally still not bitter. But the truth is, LeBron's story didn't need any of that, because on June 19th, 2016, his arc was kinda completed. That night, LeBron didn't just prove himself to the masses, he proved something to himself. After a decade of being labeled everything from a prodigy to a villain, from a chosen one to a choker, from a hero to a traitor, he finished the journey he started when he was 17 years old on the cover of Sports Illustrated. He came home, he faced his greatest failures, he rewrote the ending. Honestly, everything else he's done since then is really just icing on the cake. Like the universe adding a couple extra chapters to a story that already had a perfect ending. But redemption arcs aren't about perfection. They're about growth, failing, and choosing to stand back up. In a kinda weird way, LeBron's arc has honestly less to do about basketball and more about being a person. We all know what it's like to disappoint people, to mess up, to make decisions that we kinda regret, to get knocked down by the weight of our own expectations. But we also know what it feels like to want to make things right. LeBron didn't just redeem his image, he redeemed a relationship with a city, with a fan base, and even with parts of himself that weren't ready in 2010. The kid from Akron became the hero of Cleveland, and in that moment, crying on the floor, holding that trophy that he's chased for half his life. He didn't just win a championship, he closed the loop, he completed his arc, he earned the redemption that he spent years fighting for. So yeah, there's countless great redemption stories in fiction, but the greatest one, the one that feels the most human, the most flawed, the most triumphant, it didn't come from an anime, or a comic book, or a fantasy epic. It came from basketball. It came from LeBron James. Damn, this video was a long time coming. Honestly, it was like the second video I started working on after that Meet the Robinsons video. Ironic since it's coming out basically a year since I made that video and posted for the first time on YouTube. But thank you to everyone who's been on this ride with me this whole time. And if you just made it to the end of this. Now, was this video just an excuse for me to glaze LeBron James? I mean, yeah, a little bit. He might not be my favorite player, despite what this video might make you think, but he's definitely the GOAT. Truthfully though, I just wanted to combine two of my favorite things, which are storytelling and sports. But thank you all once again. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know some of your favorite redemption arcs, or if you want to see more sports content, I don't know. But I'll talk to you guys next time. And shouts out my pops, I finally made a video he can actually understand.